it's Tyrone Cratic Williams here, candidate for Assembly District 76. In 2014, I felt I had the capacity to serve my community on a higher level, and I became a police officer. The majority of my law enforcement career has been right here in District 76. As a police officer, I know how important it is to address underlying conditions that are causations to people's suffering. I also understand the immense privilege and power that is granted to police officers by the community. Trust is something that is earned and should be earned repeatedly through each encounter and every action. It cannot be taken for granted. One of my earliest encounters with the police occurred when I was in the 8th grade in Chicago. There was a student who had gotten into an altercation and the police were called to investigate. Now, this student had accepted responsibility for his actions. He was calm and cooperative while the police completed their investigation. When the time came, the student was ultimately arrested and placed in handcuffs. The officer had begun to escort the student out of the classroom, and like I said, the student was 100% compliant. When they were just about to exit the classroom, the officer decided to slam the student's face into the corner of a metal door frame. I still remember the sound of the thud that student's face made when he hit the door frame. That officer did that in front of all of the students in the classroom as well as the teacher. And he just looked back at us and smirked. I'll never forget that sound, and I'll never forget that feeling of hopeless oppression and anger. That feeling of wanting to do something, but just not knowing how or if I was even capable of doing something about it. That classroom was full of black children, and we all shared that experience. And if that memory from 18 years ago can affect me in such a way, I recognize the lasting traumatic impact that other similar events, both indirectly and directly, can have on communities, especially historically marginalized ones. And I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to have a voice, and I wanted a seat at the table. So I chose to become a police officer. And not to drive fast, make arrests, or do whatever it is that people see on TV. I recognized early on of my power in being a younger black male who is from this community, who has spent years creating networks, building relationships, and developing black and brown youth who are now young adults and building their own lives in the very same community that raised me up. There is a privilege in truly knowing your community and having an invested relationship with the people in it. When people come across me, I work to ensure that our interaction is never like my experience I had in that classroom. I also work to address abuse, racism, bias, and prejudice within the criminal justice system. That's what drives me and why I lead trainings on topics of implicit bias and its impacts on community relations, decision-making, and racial disparities. In my work, I've created partnerships with local and statewide stakeholders, including law enforcement agencies, social services, nonprofits, colleges, and universities, to recommend and create policies and strategies to reduce bias within their respective organizations. As a black police officer and someone who has been on the other side of institutional power, I bring a unique perspective to law enforcement, and I'm dedicated to creating change within the system. My profession allows me to use my position of power to protect communities of color and other vulnerable groups. As an elected official, I plan to use my power to do the same. Thank you and stay safe.